Welcome to my back porch at my apartment. Today we are starting some of our cool weather crop seeds. So I needed to get those in, so I thought I would take you along with that while we're here, because these seedling starts will be growing at my apartment like we talked about with my grow lights that I got to start them indoors. So I'll be showing you what we're going ahead and getting planted today. This is everything that either are slow growing herbs that need longer to indoor germinate and grow, whether transplanted outside in the spring, or for our crops that are still cool weather and like a little bit of a frost. So let's go ahead and get started. So in the video where we got our first snow, I showed you all of my seed starting equipment that I got, that my family and friends blessed me with for Christmas. So that is what we'll be using today. If you want, you can go back to that video to refer back to where I got everything and what all I grabbed. We'll be using the black gold seedling mix. I'm hoping this is a small bag, but we're not starting too much today. So this wouldn't cover all of my seed starts, but I'm hoping it covers at least enough for what we're going to be getting started today. So we'll get the trays filled up and then go ahead and start putting our seeds in them. Okay, so we went ahead and got all of those cells filled up. Each square is called a cell within your little seed starting tray. So all those are filled up. I don't really go back through and like compress them down or anything. You want to make sure you keep the soil loose, and also make sure that your soil is kind of moist before it goes in. So this bag has been sitting outside where it has had access to some rain getting on it, so it's not saturated, but it's nice and damp. So if you've had a bag sitting around for a little while that's dried out a little bit, just try to throw some water in there and make sure it gets a little bit of absorption to make sure that it's still good soil, because if soil dries out, it can affect your growing for your seeds. So like I said, we are going to be starting our plants today that are still considered cool weather crops. You can grow these through the summer, but in my experience, they've not grown well if you don't transplant them while you are still getting some frost. So things like cabbages and kales, if you plant those when you plant your tomatoes, they will go to bolt quickly and before they can fully mature. So things that like cooler weather like to be planted sooner than those, well before your last frost date. So our last frost date is technically April 20th. So I am even planting these a little bit sooner than I should, but that just means I'm gonna have bigger starts, and I would rather have that than too small of starts that can't take a few little frost, especially for things like cabbages that just grow slower. So some of my herbs take 10 to 12 weeks, or recommend to be started indoors 10 to 12 weeks before your last frost date. So that is plenty of time for these. So I'm just planting them about 1 to 2 weeks early for my other plants. So what we'll be planting first today is going to be our golden beets. I tried to grow these in the fall and they just didn't germinate well, really because I should have started them indoors and I didn't, because I had issues with seed starting. So those beets, and we'll follow the Charles Downing method, which is where you put 3 seeds per cell and you plant those together. You do not like pinch off the extras just to have one plant. You'll have 3 plants growing together. So we'll do those for the beets, and then I have a mixed variety of beets for if I run out of these seeds. And then we are going to start our Blue Ridge kale, which is just your typical kale that you get in the store. Really excited to start our cabbages. We're going to be starting a lot of those today. And then I'm going to start some kohlrabi, which I've never grown this before. Again, I tried to grow it last year in the fall, but I had issues with my seed starts. And I'm hoping that we have fixed that and I won't have that this year. All right, so we're going to start off with our cabbages. These want a 1/4 of an inch depth of planting, but I won't get a ruler. I just, basically a good rule of thumb is you want them to be planted double the depth as how large the seed is. So if you have things like a pea seed or a pumpkin seed, they're going to be planted fairly deep, but with things like these seeds, they're going to be just below the surface, because you don't want to plant them too deep or else they will not germinate, because it'll take so much energy for them to try to get to the surface. They will end up dying before they get there. So you do want to do this part pretty correctly. Normally what I do is whatever marker or instrument I'm using, I'll just put a little hole about the depth in there, into the soil, and then plant my seeds in that. So we will get started on that. I am starting, I think, 18 cabbage plants today. I wanted to do 20, but these are rows of 6. So I like things to be a little bit more even than that. Or I could do some rows of 4. So I may do 20. I think I'm gonna do 20. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish out my kale and kohlrabi and the rest of these 2 trays. Okay, if you've noticed, if you're watching closely and have really good eyesight, I am not putting just one seed in each cell. I am putting 2 to 3 depending on what it is, and I'm doing that for the cabbage, kale, and kohlrabi, specifically to make sure that at least one of those seeds germinates inside the cell. So once those come up, I will pinch off to leave only one plant growing in each cell. But like I said, for the beets, you plant 3 seeds together and you leave all 3 plants in that cell. So it makes it look a little bit different. And I am loving these little markers. They are so perfect for this. I'll only have enough for these 2 trays. I have a bigger tray that I'm starting the beets in that I won't have enough for, so I'll have to get a little creative with those on how I'm going to mark off what's where, because trust me, you want to let yourself know, because when those little seedlings start popping up, you don't want to be guessing what's what, because you won't remember. It is pretty cold out here. My fingers are definitely starting to get really cold, and it is hard to grip tiny little seeds like this. Oh man. Okay, the other tray that I am starting to add into is this huge tray that I have from Haas Tools. So I'm gonna do all of my beets and then my herbs in this first part of this tray. The rest of this tray will be for all of my tomato starts, and any of like pepper starts, all of those things. So I'm not gonna fill with dirt, because like I said, you don't want that dirt to get dry. So I've only filled what I will be using. So I'm gonna go ahead and I am doing 36 beet starts. So a lot of beets, because we have plenty, I made plenty of room for those. And I'm gonna doing the Charles Downing method, where I'm gonna put 3 seeds in each cell, and we'll have 3 plants growing in each cell. So as you can see, these seeds are a bit bigger, so these will be planted down much deeper than what you were planting your cabbage and other like brassicas down. Okay, so if you noticed, I went back through and like redid the hole, because I noticed after putting in my first row of beets that they were kind of stacking on top of each other, and I don't want that. I want them to be flat out next to each other. So I went ahead and just made the hole bigger so they would lay out. And then as you can see here, I ran out of my markers, so I went ahead and just put some tape and a B, because it's the only thing I'm starting with, a B, so I'll know that those are beets. The herbs I'll be starting today are thyme, sage, oregano, dill, our onions, scallions, and rosemary. Most of these take about 10 weeks to grow to where they'll be ready for transplant outside. So that's why we're already starting some of our herbs now, because they are slow growers. Dill is a seed that likes to be pressed in just into the surface, so you literally just kind of push it in. It and chamomile are like that, where they don't want to be fully buried. Is all of our cool weather crop or slow growing herbs that needed to get planted today. I'm going to take these inside, and when you are watering your seedlings, it's always recommended to water from the bottom. So normally you have these sitting in another tray, so water into the tray so that it can pull the water from the bottom to the top. That way you're not disturbing your seeds or just kind of packing them down. It's better for them to get watered from the bottom. So I'm going to take these inside, get them set up in their little trays, and get my grow lights turned on, and hopefully we will have some beautiful starts start showing up pretty soon. Thank you for hanging out with me today, guys.